Welcome back, everybody. Outsider Nation Coffee. We are here, Road Less Travel podcast. Sky and Kristen in the mix. What's going on?
Morning.
What's up, buddy?
And we were talking about persistence last time, and I babbled and babbled and babbled and babbled. And that kind of goes into what we're talking today about, man, when you just have a tough week. You know, I was out paying dues at an event. My wife's here with the two girls, taking care of the girls. I'm working an event, come back home. I got to grind all weekend. I got song commercials to produce. I got our podcast content to get up. I got this, that, and the other thing going on. And it's hard. It's hard on everybody. And Sky, Kristen, you've been dealing with this too. Kristen, you said you had to drive 2 hours to a patient or something the other day to, provide service. And it's taxing.
It is. It's a lot, when you feel like you're being stretched in a million different ways. And it was just kind of one of those weeks. And it was one of those weeks where it was like you had certain expectations at the beginning of the week, and then those expectations weren't met. And it can be very, very frustrating.
I feel her on that. To go off of her point, setting expectations with stuff. For those of you that may have listened to last week's podcast, or if you're not informed, I'll tell you now. We hired VAs for this week to bust out as many calls as they could for my real estate business. And to put it into perspective, they are able to make more phone calls in one day, using their technologies or, their skills, quote unquote, in one day than I could in maybe a week, maybe even 2 weeks, just because they're that proficient, they're that good. And the fact of the matter is they did get some leads, but those leads that started off very promising, when they got to me, it was either those people were expecting a phone call, they didn't pick up the phone, or if I did get them on the phone, they're the classic, they want way more money than what I'm willing to offer to make sense for me to make money. And those deals kind of go south. Now, I'm not saying that they're dead deals by any means, but the fact is that we're looking to lock up some deals this week. And the harsh reality is we didn't lock up any deals this week. And it's hard for, people who are in this business. All they talk about is, I locked up 5 contracts this week, or I locked up one massive contract, or whatever the case is. The hustle and bustle gets you to where you got to go, which is true. But I'd be remiss if I didn't say that there are weeks, days where you expect something great and you're left with nothing to show for it. And that definitely was this week for sure. So we're here to tell you that not every week, hell, not even every day, even every hour is going to be, pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's going to be a lot of tripping. There's going to be a lot of mud puddles. There's going to be a lot of stuff that doesn't go the way that you want, and it's all going to determine how you either pick yourself up or you stay down. But for right now, the focus is last week was very, very bad, so always have another plan ready to go to try to change some things. But moral of the story again is last week was bad, and they happen. So I'm sure you've even experienced some of that as well, just as bad as we have.
Well, and I think this kind of goes hand in hand with why we bring up certain people's names and certain people's shows and certain motivational quotes or podcasts that we've been listening to, or influencers that we follow, because most of the big name, multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar, butt-kicking gurus out there that are actually the real deal have dealt with all of this. We talked about Andy Frisella starting his, multi-million-dollar supplement company that you're now a Legionnaire for. And he was sleeping on a couch that they got from the Salvation Army in the back of his first store for, years, with his buddy Chris Klein that he grew up with. And I'm sure that people thought they were crazy when they made like no money for the first 6 years. And then I think it even got so bad that he had to move in with his dad. I think he moved in at his dad's house for some reason, because it had gotten that hard. So he's now, after X amount of years, moving back home with Papa to try and pull this thing through. And I mean, that's why, it's annoying, and I repeat it, but man, I've been doing live events for 20 years. I've seen people that are friends of mine blow up, sell, 10 million records and have these plaques on their walls, and, they're working, slanging drinks at the bowling alley. And there's nothing wrong with that, but long term, it didn't work out long term to where they're living that dream long term. Maybe they lived it for a minute, maybe for a couple of years. It blew up as bigger than it's blown up for me. But I think that there is a tortoise and the hare theory to all of this, that if you're willing to go long enough in one direction, you're willing to go hard enough in one direction, and you're willing to push through and adapt and morph throughout the years, that you'll find yourself on the other side and, clawing at top opportunities. And, it breaks my heart a little bit when these deals are falling through for you, man. But I'm telling you that I have seen people on the same stage that you signed up as a mentor from, in the same program that you're a part of. And I've hosted these events because I have seen people get the results, and those results are coming for you. You're doing everything right. It's just, you just haven't found that right pitch yet. We talk about pro sports. It's like, any of these guys. I mean, how many times do we see a guy that's a heavyweight champion, unbelievable later in his career, that lost in the Olympics or something like that, or lost some weird decision in the amateurs? I mean, this happens to people all the time. And it never sounds or feels good to hear that when you have a bad week. Oh, it'll be all right, man. Just keep on pushing.
Well, I think that's kind of been one of the issues this week too for us is, he's been frustrated, and then I get frustrated, and I'm frustrated because of things that, because it was the agreement that I was going to kind of be the one to cover the bills while he tried to get everything started. And my job's not making as much as, I was this year or last year at this time. And, so then I'm more irritated, and then he's more irritated, and we're kind of hitting heads. Like this week has just been a week where we've just bumped heads all week. I mean, our usual family walk we do for our 75 hard, I think last night we maybe said 5 words to each other.
Yeah, last night was not a good walk. So anybody who tries to pitch you that, when you're in business for yourself and blah, 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 and everything is hunky-dory and everything's cool, they're full of themselves. Because last night was a classic example where my point of frustration was way up here, and then hers might have been like right here. But then we started speaking a little bit more about it, and I think she got even more frustrated with me. Like she went up here, and then I just kind of shut down last night during our walk. And we don't do that. Like we've made it a point for our marriage, our relationship, that we don't, one of us doesn't leave the house angry, and we don't go to bed angry. And it was getting to that point. Luckily, we went to bed happy, but there were some days this week where it might have seemed like everything was cool, like we were okay. But in all reality, when Kristen did go to her job, like when she left, like we were mad at each other. Well, and it's not so much like we were mad at each other. We were mad at the situation. And it's a sad note that the situation can overlap, the promises that you make to each other, or the things that you want to keep sacred and so forth, but it gets in the way. And for me, it was just one of those times where it's just like, man, this is a pretty crappy week. These are crappy situations. So we need to find a way to fix that. So we're going to try to do that today.
Yeah. I mean, so like when he started doing this wholesaling real estate thing, when he came home from the first conference, he looked at me and said, I'm going to have you out of your job in 6 months. That was in November. And it's hard because I'm the one I'm on the road all the time. I'm constantly gone from the house. By the time I get home, this week has been rough because we're still doing the 75 hard. And, I had one morning that I woke up with a headache, could not get myself out of bed. So then I'm running late, running around for work, and I get home at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and I still have 2 45-minute workouts to get in. I still have to read 10 pages of a book. I still got to get my progress pick in. I got to finish my gallon of water. And, there was like that, I was getting so frustrated. And like I had said, I had, at the beginning of the week, I thought I was going to have a certain number of patients. By the end of the week, it was not nearly that. And, so my paycheck ends up being smaller. And so I get frustrated with myself because of the promises that I made to him. I get frustrated because of the promises that I thought that he made to me. And things haven't gone as smoothly as possible, and then you get the paychecks that come in and the paycheck's gone before the day's even out because you got to pay your bills. And, but we're trying, and it's just, trying to get better at communicating with each other because, there's days that it sucks and, we're stressed because we're trying to do a million things. He's got, all these different things on his plate, the umpiring, first form, wholesaling, coffee, podcasting,
all this stuff. Umpiring starts this week. For those of you that didn't recall or hear, I also umpire high level varsity, even some college for baseball, and that scrimmages are starting this coming week. So my evenings from like 5 to 9 are going to be straight umpiring baseball games. So that's 4 hours that I'm going to be losing. Why do I do it though? Because baseball is one of the best things that ever happened to me in my life. So I want to be around the game. So I'm choosing to do it to kind of give me some sanity over all of this other work. So that's why I'm doing it. Other people would probably say you need to get rid of that. You need to not do it and focus on other stuff. Well, those people who would say something like that, they don't get it. Those are the people that are doing their job, just over broke crap. They go do their thing, and then they get to go do the umpire thing, then get home, and then chill out, go to sleep, and wake up the next day. When I'm done with umpiring, I'm probably going to have to come home, relook at everything that I did for the day, what worked, what didn't work, probably be up till midnight, 1 o'clock or whatever, try to fix it for the next day, make sure my VAs have everything that they need, make sure my lists are already prepared, blah, 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 and then do it all over again. So it's kind of that, it's a necessary evil for me to get back some sanity for 4 hours of the day, but then it's right back to the same crap that you're trying to do just to make sure everything works.
And I think this is part of the reason why, we as entrepreneurs or we as business owners are starting up a vision or trying to chase a dream can sound harsh sometimes because the situations that we're dealing with are harsh. The situations that we're being dealt and, like you said, the crap that we're fed a lot of the time is harsh. So it can leave you with a bitter taste in your mouth when you get punched in your mouth enough times that your freaking lips bleeding. And so I think it's important for people to understand that it doesn't matter if you're working a job or if you're just stay-at-home mom. My wife is a stay-at-home mom now, and it's just as hard on her stay at home with the kids as it is for me to travel and do all this other stuff. It's hard. It's a balance. I mean, I'm with the girls for like an hour or something yesterday, and I'm like, just by myself. It's not, I wouldn't call it my strength. I mean, I'm good, but I don't have the same amount of patience that she has. They need their mother to be home with them so that they can become the best that they possibly can be in the future. So we have to make sacrifices to make sure that happens. And so that's this, when you make decisions like that, you're going to take hits. And so, that's what you guys are doing, and it's hard, and you're trying to accelerate too. The other thing is that you're trying to accelerate your output. You're trying to put in more and more and more and more and more so that you can put out more and more and more and more. Getting more better results means that you have to put out more. You got to put out more cold calls. You got to put out more in your workouts. You got to put out more here. You got to put out more there. That's the only way to get it to come back in. And I think that's part of the frustration is that when we now find ourselves around people that aren't thinking that way, it can be frustrating because they're not on the same level of mindset that we're on. Everybody's got their own, perspective or their own way of looking at things through their own lens. Lens is a better word. And I think that we can feel, like Kristen said, it can get really lonely, man. It can get
It is,
really, really
it is
lonely.
very lonely. What do you have right there? Oh, my wife is grabbing our board.
We talked about this last week.
There you go. I got a board now too. It's funny that I just ordered one.
But so we kind of, we talked about last week because of how much we've had going on that we needed to kind of take it and schedule him out. And, we've got him pretty much booked solid from 4:00 in the morning until 9:00 at night. And then at that point he comes home and it's whatever he has to follow up on.
And
Yeah,
so
there's
important.
no areas in here for me to have time for friends or downtime to do stuff. And some people would say that I'm crazy for wanting to do that, or I'm nuts, or you're not going to have any social life, you're not going to have any friends, and blah 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 and stuff. Well, that comes back around as well to like what me and you were talking about on Instagram for a while. I made a funny post actually where when you start changing what it is that you're doing for the betterment of you and not wanting to live the norm, quote unquote, people stop responding to your posts on Instagram. They stop liking your stuff. And then some people don't even follow you anymore. Like it seems every other day it's small, but I'm losing like 1 to 2 followers like every day on my Instagram. All when I started doing posts about changing lifestyles, wanting to be different and so forth. And that just shows you the sheep mentality that most people have. And it's a sad thing that, if you were somebody's friend, you would want to support them, make them get better at what they're doing. But instead, people either just don't like your stuff, or they're just like, screw this person. I'm not even going to look at their stupid stuff anymore. I'm just going to unfollow them. And does it hurt? No, I really don't care. And she'll be the first to tell you, I don't care what people think about me. You can think I'm the greatest person in the world, or you can think I'm an asshole. Okay, that too. This is a family show. The thing is, regardless of what it is, I legitimately don't care. And that's why I think I do really well in umpiring, to kind of go off a sports thing. Like when you're an umpire, you have to take a lot of crap.
Oh, yeah, that's actually a good analogy, because everybody hates the umpire because they want you to call it for their way.
Exactly. You're going to have one side that is going to be awesome with you, and then you're going to have the other side that absolutely hates your guts, at least on the field. And then behind you, when I did it professionally, you got 3,000 to 5,000 people behind you that a lot of them are there. They tend to side with the side that's giving you the crap because they want to be, they want to boo, they want to throw curse words at you and stuff like that. So it's kind of, like I say, a perfect analogy to where I think that has helped me a lot, because I had to take a lot of crap from a lot of people, fans, coaches, and stuff like that. And at one point, I just was just like, I don't care what you think. I'm the authority here. This is what it's supposed to be. This is the call that's going to stand. And if you don't like it, go F yourself, man.
And I will eject you from this game.
Oh yes. I've thrown many people
out in my day. Have you ejected somebody? So. That is phenomenal. And everybody loves it when the coach gets ejected, even whether it's a bad call or a good call. Even I root for coaches that go out and yell at the umpire. Everybody loves to see the umpire get yelled at. But you know what? At the end of the day, when that guy gets ejected, the umpire's in charge. It's a beautiful thing.
Exactly.
It's a beautiful thing. And so, yeah, I think you guys are seeing an evolution here of, we talked about when we first started it, how hard times are going to come. Those hard times are hitting, and they're kind of striking hard. They're coming in waves, but what's going to happen is those waves, those big waves, they start to even out, and then you have clear weather sometimes, and it's chill, and it's straight and you can see what's coming and it's right down the line. And dude, those days are going to come. Um, I've had some good days and bad days recently too. And, sometimes we just got to surrender to the calling. And I've been talking about this a lot, is to just kind of like find 5 minutes. I don't know where it is in that schedule, because that schedule's packed. 5 minutes where you can just close your eyes, even if it's 10 seconds. Close your eyes and just be like, man, you got this. I'm going to keep going. Visualize that result, and then you're taking as much action as you possibly can to get to that result. Because I think there's a lot of this rainbow unicorn, if you just close your eyes and visualize it, it'll come. And that's just not true. It's just not. I wish it was.
Though.
I wish it was.
Sky has a tendency to be a little bit on the more negative side. When things start getting frustrating, he tends to kind of follow that spiral down. And I think that part of the reason that I've been frustrating him a lot too this week is because I have been trying so hard to be the cheerleader, the supporter, you've got this, well, but what was one good thing that happened? Or, he'll come and he's been frustrated by one of these deals that was, the person was asking this insane amount of money. And I'm like, well, how about this and this and this? And like, I want to be here, let me give you a couple other options. And then he gets more frustrated because he's like, well, what, and it's like, and then even to this morning, I think I was frustrating him because we were talking and we were trying to figure out what we wanted to talk about today on the podcast. And, I said, listen, we said that we were going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. I said, so this is where we go. But I also then told him that I want him to also try and figure out, 3 good things that actually happened this week, and he's like, well, there's none. Well, yeah, there was.
There's not. I don't care what she says. There's not. This was a SHIT week.
There's three. So, and like I told him, the fact that we were able to get VAs on board, that's a good thing. They started this week, right?
Okay. So we had one. Okay. One great thing. We had VAs.
Let's look at this. You stuck to your program. Okay. Well, you didn't get the exact results that you wanted. Okay. Your program is getting more efficient. Your business is getting more efficient. Yeah. I mean, dude, you probably got on base. If we really want to break this down in baseball terms, like you got on base this week way more than you would have on your own because of the VAs, correct?
I'll take that. Yes, sir.
Okay, you just didn't drive the runs.
You're speaking his language.
You didn't drive the runs home. Now, you're frustrated because you have 0 RBIs, but that doesn't mean that your on-base percentage isn't up from the week before, correct?
Correct.
Great. So while you're probably like, I'm going to punch Pat in the face the next time I see him for this analogy, because it's true, it is true. So you have to, again, I had to do this too, like, oh man, I wish I had this, and this. But guess what? The quality of what I'm doing is way higher. I've increased my network. My network has increased in net worth, which means I'm around better people constantly. And these things pan out if we take the action and make the sacrifices necessary. I got a big week of editing here at home, and then I'm in Vegas, like we talked about with Brad Lee on one of the biggest podcasts in the world. And then I'm at the Carlos Reyes All In Momentum event. Huge opportunity to really gain a lot of traction that week. And it's just, my on base percentage is way up, and it's just, those RBIs aren't going to come unless there's people on base, unless you're taking the action to get in a striking position. And sometimes being in a striking position and then, landing the punches or getting the hits in that striking position, those are 2 different things, but those conversions will happen at a higher rate if you continue to take the action to put yourself in a position to get the bigger results. 2 weeks ago, you weren't in the position to get the bigger results that you're chasing. That's why it's annoying that it didn't happen right away. It would have been helpful. But 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks down the line, when you're even more in the dumper, potentially, and I know this isn't what we want to hear. This is the same thing for me in the situation I'm in, but that's when all of a sudden you hit a grand slam, and it's like, oh, it's gonna feel good. Why? Because you consistently got runners on base. You consistently had a guy on third and second, and you're trying to bunt or figure out some way to get the ball and just get that run in. And it doesn't matter what analogy you use. This is the way that it works with what we're chasing. And I don't remember what podcast it was, but I've seen the Ed Milet where he talks about how the water got shut off or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm telling you, I used to live near Laguna Beach and perform in Laguna Beach all the time. And where he lives right now is one of the nicest areas in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
So all these guys that we talk about, you hear us beating it into our own heads that it's possible, and who we study and who we're taking mentor advice from and shows that we're following. Guys, I'm telling you, this stuff is stuff that everybody deals with, whether it's weight loss or income or starting a business or advancing to the managerial position in your job or moving up the ladder in the IT company or whatever it is that you want to do. Get on point in your marriage or be there for your kids. It's going to take sacrifices. Mm-hmm. And then even when you've got those things working, it's hard then too. Just because it's working doesn't mean it's not hard to make it work. It's not like we're sitting around eating bonbons on Sunday afternoon today. No, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We're here recording this show. There's sacrifices that need to be made. So it doesn't matter how far or how high you've made it or how low you are. Man, the action is what's going to separate the people that quit, the people that go under, or the people that give in and battle with their wife or their spouse or whatever, from the people that find ways to get through it, find ways to accelerate. And that's part of the reason why we talk about the good and the bad on this show, because for us to make this a cool brand and something that makes people feel welcome and there's a community, there has to be a level of honesty. It's not just all about selling coffee. Anybody can sell coffee. We want to sell a support system in a community and a group mentality of you can do it if you put the work in. We're the outsiders, man. And in some way, shape, or form, everybody is an outsider. Everybody feels that loneliness and emptiness when times get hard. But we want to be the voice of reason that says, hey, listen, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because we're dealing with it too. And this stuff will pan out for you, bro. It will pan out.
I know it will. It just needs to go a little bit smoother for my liking, but I know that it's not going to come easy at all. So I expect that. It's just today's podcast is just to let everybody know that there is those crappy times.
I talk to him a lot too, and I
does she ever? She won't shut up some days. That's being married.
But the whole thing is that you're pushing for a higher result that is way above what we would say, quote unquote, average, or that is a median result. And that's why it's hard, man.
Well, and he gets frustrated too, because like when he was doing the strength and conditioning coaching and, when he was running his own, gym and stuff like that, like he knew exactly he knew everything. He knew every part of everything. He knew how to sell it. He knew, and he keeps comparing it to how he did then, because he didn't take as many hits when he was building that as he's doing with this. And I keep explaining to him that this is a lot newer for him. It's not like he has all this knowledge and training and stuff in the real estate up until just a few months ago, versus when he was doing the strength and conditioning coaching, he was training some of the top athletes in our country, professional sports players, that have played for professional for NFL, for the women's soccer team, for Katie Ledecky from the U.S. swim team. Like, he's trained all these people. He knew that inside and out, like the back of his hand. He's just still getting there with this. He knows it. And he's learned a lot in just a few months, but he's just not very patient with himself.
And I'll jump in. All that stuff is great. When I was a strength coach, I still technically am a strength coach. Like, I do stuff with it, but it's not nearly to the level extent that what I did. And some people are probably going to look back, listen to this podcast, and they're going to be like, well, if you're so good at that, why did you stop doing that, or blah, 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 stuff like that. Well, for 3 reasons. 2 for sure. 3rd, maybe. Number 1 is the fitness realm, and you can attest to this too, probably, Pat.
Yeah.
The fitness realm, the influencers that we see now, the amount of professionals that are in that particular space are almost non-existent. Everyone who looks at fitness people who give advice and so forth, if you dive into them now, they're basically a joke. They're the 19 to 23-year-olds who haven't done anything in the industry that are selling, ab programs, and women are selling booty programs and stuff. They have no certifications. They have no knowledge. They don't know anything. And they're the ones that people look up to. So as people who know the science behind stuff, people who know everything, they're the ones that get left out a lot. And then they're the ones that get the bad name for everything. Like, I've had some people, when I was doing this, laugh at me because I had under 1,000 followers on Instagram. And they're like, well, if you're such this big shot, blah, 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 why don't you have a huge following like Jeff Snead or somebody like that, who's a fake natural dude who sells cookie cutter programs, that he has an assistant do. You ask him about scientific stuff, what does he do? He'll block you. How do I know this? Because I've called people out like this, where they've done a program and I've put down something that even the dumbest of dumb personal trainers should know, and they don't answer it. And the next thing I know, that person has deleted my comment and they blocked me.
Well, yeah,
like, that's the mentality of the health and fitness industry that we have, and it's only getting worse. So I didn't want to associate myself with that. And then the second portion of being in that industry or whatever, it's a very cutthroat business, and there's I've been screwed over by a lot of people in the industry, and I didn't want to deal with that anymore. Now, people can come back around to me and say, you'll get screwed over in real estate and so forth. I mean, yeah, you're going to do that, but it is what it is. That brings me to the third point, is to get to where I want to get to as far as wealth, freedom, and a legacy, which is one of the things that I'm actually trying to live by now, which is freedom, family, and legacy. I want to have all that in. When you have the fitness industry being kind of this, cesspool of stuff, you're not going to make nearly as much money because you're going to be looped in with all of the crappy people. Whereas real estate, you can have, like we were talking about, you could have one home run deal that you do, and you could make $50,000 to $100,000, and then you're not as stressed.
And
so
I
that's
think
kind
it's
of
good
that.
that you separated yourself, because it's like, number one, it's like the amount of followers you have has no reflection of what your knowledge is or what your level of performance is. It's just I could go on famoid.com or whatever it is right now and buy 600,000 Instagram followers, and ooh, look at me, I'm an influencer. So that means nothing to me. And it all goes back to what we're trying to do here with this show. And it's not just about, drinking coffee and being happy all the time. It's, how can I choose happiness when I'm dealing with all this crazy stuff, when I'm making the transition from fitness, or when I'm working as a nurse and I come home and I'm upset and I just want to eat bad and drink and wake up and not care. And it's just like, we want you to care. We want people to know that stuff does happen, and that, we're trying to be a voice of reason that believes not only in ourselves, but in other people, because we have started to follow online mentors and podcasts and shows that think the same way. And this stuff, it works. If you program your brain, it works. And it has been a hard week for you, and I can tell because you're frustrated, and that's okay. And I'm glad that there's an outlet. I'm glad that I can help you voice that, and that's part of the reason why people told me that my idea with launching people's shows, people told me that was stupid because you just need to be working with established people and you just need to be working with people that already know how to do podcasts and Instagram and all that. And I'm like, no, I think I need to be working with people that need me to take their feeling of I'm voiceless and give them a voice. People that need to find the power in their message and put it out there. That's what my goal is with doing this, is to show people that listen, you don't need 80 million followers to be relevant. We're all relevant. Do I want to work events with the best people possible? Absolutely. Because that helps me bring people that aren't doing events into those situations and raise their level, rather than just, I'm only going to hang out with, rich and famous people all the time. That stuff fades away, man. Fades away. So that's why we're in it for the real. We're in it for the struggle. We're in it for the drive and the grind, because that's still where I'm at. I never made it. I think that there will come a time where it's maybe certain things are eased. I think that time is coming for you as well. And I think that we all met for a reason, because we're in, the same bucket together, and we're, trying to find our way to the top of the freaking bucket. I mean, it's kind of like, I'm going to get real nerdy here. It's kind of like Star Wars.
Oh boy.
The first Star Wars, okay, they go in to save the princess, right? Because every freaking great movie, you got to save the kidnapped female, right? Because that's what we as men that are heroes in the galaxy, that's what we do. We save kidnapped princesses. So they barrel their way into the Death Star and they find the princess and get her out, and then they're pinned down in this like corridor. They're pinned down, they're getting blasted at, and the only like way out is this little garbage chute. So they dive into the garbage chute, right? And then all of a sudden, like, the walls start closing in, right? And there, you think, if you've seen it for the first time, you're like, oh, well, they're done for now. But R2-D2 figures out a way to get the walls to stop closing in, and they get out and they blow the thing up and they save the galaxy, right? There's gonna be times in your life where you're pinned down, it stinks, you feel like you're in the garbage chute, and then when you're pinned down, it stinks, and you feel like you're in the garbage chute, the walls start closing in on you. How much worse can it possibly get than all of this? It stinks, it's hard, the walls are closing in, and it's like, man, what am I gonna do, dude? What am I going to do? And you have to call for help. It might be God. It might be R2-D2. It might be you need to, rub the belly on the Buddha. You got to find some way to release that pain in that moment so that you can find a way to stop the walls from crushing you. And there's always a way to do that. It's like you said, the bases are loaded, you're ready to win, and then all of a sudden, it's starting to stink. You're in the garbage chute. The walls are closing in, man. This week is shot. But there's gonna be some kind of way out. And then once you get out of that situation, eventually it will turn and you will be in the firing position, right? And you're gonna blast the thing to pieces, and you're gonna close that big deal, and the whole thing's gonna blow up. And while it's a nerdy analogy, that's why we watch heroes on the big screen, because there's always a conflict I don't care if it's Rocky Balboa or Luke Skywalker or Marty McFly or what. All my analogies are nerdy because I'm a nerdy 80s and 90s kid. I don't care.
Those are the best ones. Don't let anyone tell you different. Those are awesome.
I know they are. That's why I said them. But Top Gun, Maverick loses Goose. And his
spoiler alert. Don't anybody who hasn't seen that, you're an idiot for not seeing it, but spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Man, Goose dies. And Maverick's whole frequency is off, man. He's freaking out. The little buzzes and all these things are triggering him. But at the end, he comes back and there's no medals or anything. This isn't training anymore. It's real life. And he saves Homeboy, Iceman or whatever, who was his rival in the school. Like the reason why we cheer for those characters is because we deal with these scenarios in our everyday lives. There's no coffee. You're out of coffee or you're out of coffee filters in the morning, and then you got no coffee in the line at Starbucks, out the drive-through line. You got to be at work by 9 o'clock. You got the kids screaming in the back of the car. They're late for preschool, blah, blah, blah. I mean, dude, it could be anything. The walls are closing in. It stinks. And how am I going to get out of this? Like you said earlier, it's crappy. Mm-hmm. It's just part of the game, man. So what systems can I put in place? What action can I take? What can I write down? This is what I've got to start doing too, is start writing down my daily goals and daily actions. And I've avoided this for a while because I hate it, because I'm ADD. And attacking a list every day, just like you've got on your board. You know, my buddy Jonathan calls that a daily ledger. Like the daily action that I've got to take to get to my results, so that I can avoid that garbage stink, so I can avoid getting pinned down in the corridor, so I can avoid the walls closing in on me and me freaking out, because there's always a way to turn that corner. I mean, for me, like we were talking about, I'm starting to kind of see the light at the end of the corner. And I mean, it took me years. I slept on floors. I slept in vans to make this musical thing work, to be like an entertainer and get into the business world. I mean, this was savage stuff that I had to deal with. I had to deal with not making money, dude, for years. And I applaud you, because you're taking, you know, a different route when it comes to that than I did. But I know that this stuff's going to work out. And anybody that watches this, like, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and it has to do with how am I preparing for when these situations come? Because these situations are going to come. They always do. They always do. And again, that's why I use that movie analogy, because we see the conflict of the character and we're like, oh yeah, sucks for you, because we've got all this stuff going on in our life that sucks too, where we're pinned down. And it's like, how am I going to get out of this one? Bills are stacking up. Debt, maybe it's credit cards, maybe it's student loan debt, and the health insurance and the car insurance and the kids' diapers and the formula. And then the kids are sick. We got to go to the doctor. Like, trust me, I deal with it every day, every month. Kids got coughs. What are we going to do? Kid's been sick for 2 weeks. They can't sleep at night. Who's going to go lay down with this kid while somebody's feeding this kid? And I want to be up at 4:30 in the morning, starting my day too. 4:30 in the morning comes around real fast when you wake up 5 different times during the night because your kids are sick. It ain't happening. 6 o'clock it is. So, you know, we're here for you people. We get it. We're dealing with it. And, I'll be really excited when you hop on here and you're like, dude, I closed like 9 deals. I'm hiring closers. We're moving into an office. That day will come if you work for it.
Hopefully later this month, that'll be one of those good things. So that's what we're pushing for, because today is March 1st. So it's a good time to start.
It's a new month, man. It's a new time for you. And I mean, I can't even tell you how many people I personally know that have used those systems to get extremely wealthy. And so that's why you said you want better for yourself and you want better for your family, and everybody does. It's the people that take action that get the results. It's the people that are willing to prepare for when the world is coming down on them, and not getting drunk or eating bad or staying on target with your finances or whatever it is in those moments will determine the results 30 days from now. The decisions that we make today will determine the results that we get 30, 60, 90, 12, 15 years from now. And I made those decisions 10 years ago that I wasn't going to quit when I was sleeping on my friend's floor and everybody was telling me I was a loser. You know, some of those same people are getting on these videos and being like, man, wow, that's pretty cool, man. Looked up that guy. He owns $300 million in apartment buildings. Well, I mean, yeah, it also says that in the caption because you're watching the video. So why don't you like and support me instead of, you know, I mean, it's just, you're going to deal with it. It's just all of this stuff goes hand in hand. So, yeah, the garbage chute, the pin down corridor, the walls closing in could be happening to you this week. But guess what? It's fresh week, fresh day tomorrow, and success is on its way if you're willing to put in the work. So Sky and Kristen, as always, stick with it. You know, stick with the game plan. And, you know, like we talked about with the baseball analogy, man, I mean, if you're loading the bases, I mean, that means that you're already getting hits. So it's only a matter of time before, you know, Stan the man walks up to the plate and cranks one. It only takes one or two closes for you to freaking start, you know, turning into a bulldozer.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
So
Thank you, Pat.
I'll be calling you bulldozer closer in like.
Hey, that's a trademark right there.
boy.
There you go.
That's awesome right
You're gonna
there.
have to change your IG tag to @bulldozer closer.
I that is cool. I like that. I gotta
like
write
it
that
too.
down.
I like it
Oh,
too.
boy.
I'm literally writing that
That one's all yours, buddy.
down.
So anyway, you got anything else, Kristen?
No, I think that's about it for today. I think it's just, you know, and what I'm trying to get Sky to start doing is, you know, even though it's been that crap week with the walls closing in, you know, there are something, no matter what, there's always some bright spot, you know, and it's just getting out of your own way and finding out and looking at your own days and your own week and saying, you know what, there was this moment, and there was this moment, you know, the rest of it may have been pretty bad, but there are those moments that can, you know, help get you through. There's always that, you know, it's trying to find that positive that's in there, you know, as hard as it may be. And some weeks are definitely going to be harder than others, but
You got it, man.
gets you out of your own head.
Stick with it. I think that evaluating is necessary. Sometimes I know a lot of people are like, oh, you know, amateurs deal with emotions and professionals don't let emotions. I mean, it's okay to like feel those emotions. We just want to make sure that we don't allow those emotions to dictate our results. And that can be hard, especially as dudes. We're all, you know, you're all jacked up working out at freaking 4 o'clock in the morning. You're going to be super pissed when shit doesn't go your way. Drinking like a gallon of protein every week, putting on mass. And if some guy doesn't close, you want to smash him through the computer. But I mean, it's just part of the game. So everybody stick it out this week. Have a great week. We love you. We support you. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.